cameras.
Oh, hey, there we go. Looks like it's time to start. Well, everybody, welcome to this weekly meeting of the Rotary Club of Jonesboro, the 3-time reigning Club of the Year for District 6150. Yay. Thank you all for checking in on the chat box. That's very helpful. That will help us get a list of, or a better understanding of who's here. We've got a great crowd today so far, so thank you very much for your participation. We will start with a devotional, and the devotional, I think, is appropriate for our times, and it's, whoa, don't leave. It says, never give up. Today is hard, tomorrow is worse, but the day after tomorrow will be sunshine. And that's Jack Ma. Okay. Rotarians, if you'll join me in the 4-way test of the things we think, say, or do. Is it the truth? Is it fair? Will it build goodwill? Will it be beneficial? There we go. Thank you very much. That is wonderful. Okay, looks like, look at all the people here. That's excellent. Thank you all for checking in. That's great. We start the meeting with the vision of Rotary, and we see a world where people unite and take action to create lasting change across the globe, in our communities, and in ourselves. We got a lot of change going on in our communities, don't we? To our guests that are joining us today who might not be members, welcome. We're glad you're here. This is we do this every Tuesday, whether we're together or not. We would much prefer to do it together, but this is what we got, so this is what we do. So thank you for being here. We appreciate you immensely. Who's got some good news we want to talk about this week? Anybody? Hi, Emily. Bill Burnett checked in. Thank you.
How do you check in, Brian?
Hey, Norm.
How do you check in?
In the chat box, they're just saying that they're here.
Oh.
If you go to the little cartoon.
Yeah, I got that. Okay. I'm here, I guess.
You can, down at the bottom, decide to send it to everyone or to a person individually. So there we go. All right. Who's got good news? You guys are making this really easy on the person who's paying for this.
Okay, I've got good news.
Oh, okay.
As all of you have probably already seen in emails, and if you're on the district Facebook page or anyplace else, there is going to be a first ever district live stream that will be broadcast on both the Rotary District 6150 Facebook page as well as the YouTube channel. Speaker is going to be Dr. Jennifer Dillahay. Jennifer is a Rotarian. She's a member of the West Little Rock Rotary Club. She's also a part of the team that is kind of backing up Dr. Smith. If you ever watch the governor's daily briefings, Dr. Smith is normally the spokesperson. Dr. Dillahay is part of his team. But maybe as important as all that, the moderator for Thursday's event is our very own Hatton Weeks. And so he's going to bring his skill set to the table. So it's really going to be good. We're going to hold it to about 30, 35 minutes, I think will be. So it won't be long. It'll be 3 o'clock Thursday afternoon. You can dial in on either the YouTube channel or the district's Facebook page. So that was probably more than $1. So who do I send my $5 to?
It's okay. It's covered.
Okay.
On the screen, there's a little thing that I copied from Sydney's email that says, how do I attend? Do this now. Sam might be the only one, well, maybe Joe Clogston, that makes sense to. So if you'll tell us what we need to do, that would be great.
Well, Hatton is probably more knowledgeable on social media interaction than I am. So, and he could say it probably, and it'd make a lot more sense.
So it's my understanding that two ways to watch the feed on Thursday will be to go to the 6150 YouTube channel. So youtube.com and then search for 6150 Rotary. And then subscribe, or you can go to the Facebook page, to the Rotary District 6150 Facebook page and like it. And Thursday, you can open up the live feed on either one of those, YouTube or Facebook. And if you want to ask a question, you'll see the little comment window over there, the discussion feed. And then as we go through, we'll pick some questions and have that for the Q&A at the end. How'd I do, Sam?
Perfect. Perfect. Absolutely.
And Brian, I can share that out on Facebook. I'll just, if all of us just went to the District 6150 Facebook page and even shared it on our own respective pages, that would help to spread the word also.
Okay, very good. Well, that is in a year of firsts, that's another one that you can be a part of. So that's a really neat thing that we're doing, that the district is doing, and just getting information out so everybody can benefit from it. Okay, any other good news before we move on? Okay.
I have some good news.
Okay.
Brian,
Go ahead.
this is Rachel. This is Rachel Jones, and I'm joining in from my phone.
Okay.
I have two things. First, I'm actually sitting outside, listening to the Rotary meeting, and it's just such a beautiful day, and so I'm so thankful that I'm able to do that. And secondly, I want to wish Jill Clarkston a happy birthday today.
Oh, that is so sweet. Thank you.
Jill.
I promise I didn't pay her to say that.
Well, we will do you the favor of not singing because we're not a singing club, but
Okay.
just know that we all wish you a happy birthday.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Guy Pattison, normally he's looking for the dessert after the meeting, but today he wonders if this is where we register for the free haircut drawings. And I would buy some tickets for that.
Yes, they are.
That would be a thing.
Okay,
Anybody else?
reality is alkaline hydrolysis.
Okay, you need to mute your phone. There we go. There we go. Well, now the reason that everybody came is because we, I think someone mentioned last week, it might have been John Deacon, in the chat box, he said, gosh, it really would be good if we had somebody who could talk about what this virus is doing to the economy and what we can all expect. So, you know, being an organization that makes things happen, we went to the local expert, the guy who knows stuff. And so we invited him to the meeting today, and I really am proud to have one of our very own from A-State, the Griffin College of Business. We have Philip Tew. He is an associate professor of finance. He is the director of Scarlet to Black, and the director for the Center on Economic Education and Financial Literacy. Did I get any of that right?
You got it all correct, except for the whole leading expert thing. I'm not sure about that. That makes me nervous.
Well, you know what? Take it till you make it. We won't know the difference.
Yeah, that's not a problem with that.
Well, welcome, Dr. Tew.
I also have a law degree. I can make up stuff. It's not a problem.
There you go. A license to make stuff up. Well, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to come here. I've been watching the chat, and I see quite a few people on here that I know. I also will wish Jill a very happy birthday as well. So I'm assuming she is 29 again. So happy birthday to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And Kyle Clarkston says hello.
Okay, well, good. Tell him I said he can be the one giving the presentation then.
No, but Dr. Tew was one of my son's favorite teachers at A-State. So
Oh, now everybody's kissing up. This is really
Yeah.
good.
When are grades due?
He's graduated, so he's out. He's
He
fine.
just moved on. So I've been asked to kind of talk about the economy and how COVID-19 is affecting it. And so earlier, we talked about, I believe y'all just talked about having a presentation that, you're seeing all kind of new things happen. And every day it is something new. Yesterday I had Twitter pulled up and was texting with 2 other faculty members about oil prices. We had, what happened yesterday in the oil market was something that had never been seen before, as oil prices, as it relates to, I guess, oil futures, and be more correct, yesterday dropped to negative territory, where basically the oil companies were paying people so much per barrel to take the oil because there's no place to store it at. And the reason behind that is demand has fallen so much. So we are seeing things that have never happened before, which is not a good sign. I've got the market pulled up on another screen here, and it's down about, S&P's down about 3%. And so what you'll see a lot on when it comes to national news is you'll see how the S&P is affected. You'll see how the other entities are affected, how oil prices are. A lot of what I do is I focus more on the personal side, personal finance side, but I also focus on what I would call true small businesses and the effect that has. So that's where I'm going to kind of focus this talk on, is more on the true small businesses, the mom and pop shops that you see here in Jonesboro or around the area. And so we've had a few things that have happened that have caused the issue that we're currently seeing with the economy. And with COVID-19, with the shutting down of these businesses, I would say my concern is much more how will these be able to survive a longer term. We talk about individuals that live paycheck to paycheck, but there are a lot of businesses that basically live paycheck to paycheck or sell to sell. And I think what you're going to see, the longer this plays out, the more of these small businesses that are not going to be able to continue. Congress has passed, they passed a previous stimulus package. I just saw on the web here that they've reached another deal on small business relief package. It's $450 billion, supposed to be voted on later today in the Senate. And what you'll see, my concerns with this are, and I'm not sure who all's on here. I'm assuming there's a banker that's on here somewhere. There's got to be a banker.
2 or 9.
I'm sorry?
There's probably 2 or 9 bankers.
That's what I thought. This is Rotary, so there's always got to be bankers involved. And so I'm sure the bankers can back me up on this. One of the concerns I had when they did the original small business relief package as part of the first money sent out by Congress, and there's been a lot of uproar that larger businesses are getting the money. I think right now Ruth's Chris Steakhouse has become the symbol for all that is evil in the world. They've gone from being a lovely steak restaurant to, oh, how did that connect? That's frightening. They've gone from being a steakhouse to now being the evil of all the world. And so it's not overly surprising that that's what happened. in that most of what I would consider true small businesses, where you have 4, 5, 8 people, small local restaurants, they weren't going to be able to get those funds because it takes a while to get documentation up. It takes a while to be able to get approval for these and to get all your documents you need to the lender, to whomever, to get that. Larger businesses were able to get that quicker because most of them already had everything lined up and were able to do that. Now, with the newer one, the $450 billion one, focusing on small businesses, maybe this will be a little bit better. I think there's a part of it that has been carved out for say people that are for businesses, for people that are unbanked and situations like that. I still think you're going to see some struggles. As I've driven around, I've noticed that there's a couple of small restaurants I've heard have already closed and are closed for good. And so I think these are ones that were hanging on barely. And now with any type of disruption, you're going to see that. You're going to begin to see this ripple out. Another way that this is going to impact locally is right now, I would say the banks and lenders aren't struggling as much as they probably will be if this goes on for a while. A lot of people who may not be able to make their loan payments, they haven't really hit that that magical 90-day mark of being 90-day past dues. I would say start looking at bank financials come May and June, and you may begin to see those happen. So far I've been very negative and pessimistic, which is much more like my personality. I did my dissertation on bankruptcy and financial distress, and I actually was in the job market after completing my dissertation during the 2008 financial crisis. So I was the only one who was happy that there was a massive financial crisis going on because that was what my research area was. I was the only one happy about that. I will say though, kind of the 2008 financial crisis had a major impact on the country, but different areas of the country had different impacts. Jonesboro really didn't have as big of an impact as others. And the reason behind that was Jonesboro never really had the big increases. So like the big increases in real estate values. The example I use when I talk about this in class, my sister-in-law and brother-in-law decided to buy a house, and they bought it basically about a month or two before the real estate bubble popped. And they bought it in Vero Beach, Florida. And it was, they paid quite a bit for it. It was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, a fixer-upper. And I use that term very loosely when it comes to fixer-upper. It was in Vero Beach. We visited quite a few times. I never once saw water, so it wasn't really on a beach or anything. Their backyard, I physically could not stand in their backyard. It was so small. The house behind them had the same size backyard to where if you were in the kitchen and the phone rang and your window was open and the window of the neighbor was open, you could reach over and answer their phone in their kitchen. That's how close it was. They set their air conditioner on a chilly 82 degrees, which is one reason why we always stayed in a hotel when we went to visit. And at that chilly 82 degrees during the summer, because the insulation was so bad, their electric bill still ran about $700. About 2 years later, about a year and a half later, they decided they had to move as the the real estate bubble had popped. They had their house on the market for about 18 months, and they ended up taking about a 65% loss. So they sold it for probably what was really the real value of it before. but because real estate prices had gotten so crazy, especially in South Florida, you saw this massive drop off. You didn't really have that in Jonesboro and in some areas like this, because real estate prices never really jumped up 40, 50, 60%. They stayed kind of the same. So it wasn't when the 2008 crisis hit, yes, it was bad, but it wasn't as bad here locally as some other areas. This one is different. This one is beginning to hitting everybody, not just Florida, Arizona, New York, California. It's hitting everybody. And so that's a concern we have, is how long it will remain closed and when will things begin to move back up. And so, everybody, I keep seeing on here, people are protesting, they want to open the economy back up. And part of me understands that, but there's another part to that. The other part to that is, if you open the economy back up and all of a sudden those numbers rise again and you have to shut it back down, now you've got a problem, in that you've lost whatever confidence people have in the government being able to determine when can we open, when can we not. And so it's a very fine line you have to walk as to when you open this. And that's a concern. So, as we look at this, do I think the talk has always been among economists and people on TV, are we going to have a V-shaped return? Will we rise back up just as quickly? I would say some will, but you're not going to see the spike that everyone is predicting or people are hoping for, I don't believe, because you are going to have some businesses that aren't going to be able to withstand this amount of time out. Those of you that have ever traveled to Tunica, Mississippi, a few years ago there was a flood. Mississippi flooded, the river flooded, and they had to shut down the casinos for a few weeks. And when they reopened them, Grand Casino, which at the time was the largest casino between Atlantic City and Las Vegas, they closed. They couldn't reopen because they had so much debt, and they couldn't take any additional expenses, and they also couldn't take losing that amount of money for that long. They were a group that basically lived paycheck to paycheck or week to week based on their income level. So they couldn't handle that. And so you're going to see some businesses not be able to handle it. And when that happens, you're not going to see the full U-shape. Something else, to consider, people that have currently are out of work or were out of work. Let's talk about restaurant people, staff in restaurant. Some of them are so employed. Some of them have taken jobs elsewhere at, let's say, Kroger, Walmart, some of the places that have been hiring. When those restaurants start back, they're going to have to try to figure out how to get people back to work there. And it may end up being an increase in salary. So where they were paying $10 an hour, now they may have to pay $10.50 or $11 to get people. So that's also going to cut some into their margins. Not all companies are suffering now. I've read a few things about, and if you think about what companies are doing well, Amazon is doing outstanding now, because now everybody's ordering from Amazon. So they're doing well. Walmart was already set up for the Walmart online, so they're doing well. Their online sales have been able to offset and actually overcome their loss that they've been having some in their sales within store. And so you see companies that were already had a strong online presence being able to do well. other companies, that have kind of popped, I'm sure. I feel like Zoom has probably done very well, although now they're having security issues. Even my dad, who is the most anti-computer person imaginable, they have a computer and he uses it to play solitaire, and that's what he does. He just sits there and plays solitaire and watches old westerns. He's even was talking about. I told him I had a talk today, and he said, "Oh, is it the Zooming?" I said, "Yes, it's the Zooming. We're going to do the Zooming." So, companies like that will do well. You'll start seeing some changes. Some other companies that are taking off right now, I would think about before I really thought about investing in. Uh-oh, people are now talking smack about their spouses. So we'll look at, when it comes to certain areas. A couple of weeks ago, they told everybody to please, wear a mask before you go out and go grocery shopping and before you're out and about. My wife and I ordered some masks. They were going to be here in about 2 weeks. We used to go grocery shopping on the weekend, so we didn't go that weekend. Instead, we used a service that would go get your groceries and deliver them. It cost $9.95. It was great. We used it. We thought it was great. We had no complaints about it. It worked well. Do I think we'll use it again? Probably not. I mean, the only time I could think we could use it, excuse me, is if we were both at home sick. We both had the flu or something. We would use it. It's nice to know that it's there. Probably wouldn't use it again, though. So some businesses that may be thriving right now, I don't know if they will be able to last for a longer time. I've been asked to talk about the real estate market. Real estate market is one of those areas that this has maybe not had a big of an effect on, other than people who were looking at maybe upsizing or moving from rental to ownership. That will have an effect, because you're going to see people that will take this risk back and not be willing to lock into 30 years of a mortgage or buy a house. They're going to hold off a little bit until things clear up. Now, I would say some people may think about downsizing. You still have to try to sell your current house. I would say the residential real estate market will have a small impact, not a major one. I would say commercial real estate may be more of a concern, because you may start seeing an excess of supply as businesses begin to shut down, as restaurants begin to shut down and not come back. You may begin to see that happen. You may begin to see some real estate values, especially commercial, go down from where they once were because of this oversupply. Now, the caveat to that is that we also here in Jonesboro lost some commercial real estate area when the tornado went through. So those businesses, if some of those are looking to relocate from where they were, so if one of the businesses that was in the mall is looking to leave the mall and set up a sit-alone place, that may be an area that you would see some mitigation. My guess is, though, for commercial real estate, you're going to begin to see a larger supply than demand, or you may end up seeing supply equal out to demand. I know the commercial real estate market in Jonesboro has been a very hot area in certain areas of town. I think everything is for sale going up towards the hospital north of town. It seems like everything's for sale and being built up there. The residential real estate market, I think you'll begin to see a cooling of demand until we see this begin to lift. I don't think it'll cause a massive change in prices. I think the residential real estate market will be much stronger than residential real estate market will be much stronger than the commercial real estate market. Do I see the Dow going back up to close to 29,000 where it was prior to COVID-19 when we see the economy finally get normalized? Well, if I could, first off, if I could predict the Dow, man, I would be just living in a mountain area somewhere just with my feet propped up. So let me begin by saying that. Do I think it will go back up? I do. I think certain areas will drive it back up. I think you'll see some thinning out of certain companies that were not able to hold on. You know, it'll be interesting to see what shakes out from the hotel industry, the airline industry, and the cruise industry. It'll be interesting to see which of those will remain and which ones will go away. That's something that, you know, when we have big shocks like that, especially the shocks that we're currently seeing in those areas, it'll be interesting to see who can survive those and who can't. A lot of it will, you know, be based on how well they prepared for the future. You know, for example, I don't see Southwest Airlines going away. I think, though, you may see some small regional airlines may not be able to make it back. I don't think there'll be a private. I don't think there'll be a big impact. I think Marriott will remain. I think maybe some smaller ones will not be. How long can our economy stand to be shut down until we reach a point where it cannot quickly come back? That's a tough one to try to pinpoint. I would say, you know, once you begin to get, once again, going back to my friends who are bankers, that, you know, 90-day period of not being able to make payments on loans, then all of a sudden you have lending issues where begin that, then you'll start seeing the lending markets begin to seize up, and then you have what'll be a much larger recession problem when banks begin to get impacted to where they start getting loan losses. That'll be a problem with that. So, what do you believe the impact of the stimulus money will be on inflation? I don't think it's as major of a concern as some will argue it is. I think the stimulus money will not cause the breakaway inflation. I don't really think it'll cause much inflation at all. And I think this is one of those things where what little inflation it may cause will be offset by the benefit that you'll see from it. What we're looking at, I've been asked to talk a couple of times by different local news people about the stimulus checks, about what to do with the $1,200. And so the comments, you know, should they pay off debt? What should they do with it? And this is where the bankers are going to be in an uproar here and start yelling at me and come at me with pitchforks. Is my comment has been, with the $1,200, it's supposed to be for your living expenses. It's supposed to be to help you get food, rent, stuff like that. If you're able to still cover your rent and food and your everyday living expenses, I recommend putting that into savings and not paying down additional debt, and which goes against everything typically we talk about in personal finance. I'm the first to say that's opposite of what I always teach. And the reason behind that is is to figure out how long this will go. And, you may be fine now, but in a month or so, if this is still going on, you may not be. We're beginning to see, at first the impact was on restaurateurs and people in the service industry were being laid off and losing their jobs, and people, Uber drivers and things like that. But it's beginning to spread, and now it's beginning to spread into white collar jobs. I've read, a few larger law firms are beginning to lay off lawyers, and it comes down to there's not a demand for their services, and if there's no demand, then they'll begin to lay people off. And when you see that happening, I mean, even though you may feel very comfortable now, that may not change. That may change in the future. We're beginning to see in higher ed, we're beginning to see colleges and universities furlough people, furlough individuals, furlough faculty, furlough staff, which is something that you don't see that often. As a tenured professor, I enjoy laughing and saying, my wife is an instructor and I'm a tenured professor, and I enjoy telling her they can't fire me, bah ha ha, which is, not overly true, because, you can be furloughed, you can lose your job. What impact do you see on world governments? I'm going to take something to drink here. I'm drinking my Diet Dr. Pepper. That area on world governments. So I think part of what you're seeing is, in certain areas, you're beginning to see a lack of trusting on some areas, and that some maybe have not done what their citizens had hoped they would do. They have not done what the citizens expect them to do. And so when it comes time for elections in the different areas, for those countries that have elections, you may see some turmoil. You may see some people coming up and making these, seeing some people losing their government jobs. How about that? You may see different world leaders who are in areas where there are elections begin to lose that. You may see your representatives, senators, whatever they have in the different countries, lose those because people have not had as much confidence in them as they had hoped, not as much confidence as they would like. When it comes time for times of stress, we like to look to our leaders, and we like to look to our leaders to see, to help ease us in our stress and to make the decisions that will be the best. And when that doesn't happen, I think you're going to see it being taken out on different politicians. If the next question being asked is, what I think will happen here in the U.S. to the current presidential and Congress, I have no idea. I'd never try to predict U.S. elections ever. People find things to follow and get worked up about, and we go with that. So I have no idea about that. Any more questions? Oh, I didn't even realize Dr. Jones Branch was in here. Now I really feel intimidated. Why are large corporations and industries such as the U.S. oil industry unable to sustain a temporary? Unable to sustain a temporary downturn. They don't save away for a rainy day. They don't do a good job of saving for a rainy day, Mark. We like to tell people all the time, you need to set away 6 months of salary, 6 months of expenses for a rainy day fund. And businesses, and typically it's businesses that are telling people to do that, they don't follow the same lead. They don't sit on cash. Cash doesn't They should cut the avocado toast. I've never had that. I don't like avocado. Um, they don't set aside the money they need because it doesn't earn as much interest as they think it should. So they pay it out as dividend or they invest it in other areas. And you'll see that there are some companies that hold a large amount of cash. If you look at Google, if you look at Warren Buffett's company, a lot of the tech companies sit on a lot of cash. And the reason why they do that is not for this. They don't do it because of COVID-19. They do it so that when they decide to buy another company, they don't have to go then raise money or go get funds from somewhere. They have it. They can make a move and go very quickly. But a lot of the large corporations and industries haven't been able to prepare for this. Now, some of it is, some of the companies know that if it gets really bad, they're going to get bailed out. They're going to get government assistance. They're going to get someone to step in and help them, and that's what happened. The example I use when I talk in class, if I go to a casino to gamble, I'm gonna, I'll play $20 on a penny slot machine, and that's high stakes gambling for me. Now, if Dr. Jones Branch gives me $100 to gamble with, or Dr. Jones Branch guarantees my losses, then all of a sudden I'm going to a much, much better area. I'm going to start gambling on the $100, blackjack table. If she's guaranteeing my losses, that where I get to take the upside and she takes away my downside, oh, I'm absolutely doing that. Human nature. And it is the too big to fail concept. We usually talk about too big to fail when it comes to banks, because of you don't want to have the massive impacts that fall away when a major bank fails. But it's the same way, we're not going to let Delta, we're not going to let the airline industry, so we're not going to let Boeing fail. Boeing's not going to fail. So that's, it's not going to happen. So you don't have to keep that much money on reserve if you're Boeing, because if things get really bad, we're going to be at the front of the line to be able to get any stimulus money, because we have to keep the airline industry. I read that for some positions and jobs, unemployment benefits are greater than wages for the job, such as restaurant. Are we seeing this here locally? Do we know how long these unemployment benefits will be available to workers? What that is when it came to the last stimulus, the federal government added so much, where in addition to what the state paid, there was also the government would put in, the federal government put in X amount of money. I think it was $600, $400, something like that. I don't know my area. So what we're looking at, so yes, that has happened. That is happening, because of it's added to whatever the state pays in unemployment. But those unemployment benefits, I believe, the federal ones roll out, I want to say it was done for maybe 8 weeks or 10 weeks. I'm not 100% sure on that, but I guess I have the Google machine open over here. How long unemployment federal? So the federal begins this week. The $600. So it's $600 a week, and this is in New Hampshire. We'll assume New Hampshire is like the rest of the country. So I mean, it'll go for a few weeks. Jill thinks it's 13. That sounds like a good number. Sounds like it'll go for 1/4 of the year. So $600 through July 31st, 2020. We'll drive through doctor office visits, mass telecommuting, stick around. I think the doctor's visit is a unique one. Doing the telehealth, I know there's debates going on back and forth. My wife, she's a doctor in Mississippi, and they've got it set up to where she can do, instead of us driving to Jackson, they can see her that way. Now the issue is she has to do blood work and all that, so we still have to go in and see. So I think some of that will change. So that's one issue. When it comes to the mass telecommuting, I think you will see a change. I think you'll begin to see that some of this can happen. The telecommuting can work, and so you may see an increase in that, an increase in flexibility when it comes to these areas. Do I think that it will continue as it is now? No. I think we'll go back to doing this, go back to what it was like before. Is it up to the banks to decide what small businesses get federal loan money, and why did it run out so fast? It ran out because even though the money sounds like a huge amount, there were many companies lined up to get it. And so to do an SBA loan, and these flowed through the Small Business Administration area. To do an SBA loan, those are not overly quick loans to do for new borrowers. So if you're a new, small, literally mom and pop business, you've got to have quite a bit of documentation ready. And so they didn't have that. They don't have that. They can't reach it quick. Whereas Ruth Chris and Shake Shack, who's nice enough to turn around and give the money back after they were also viewed as being evil, they were able to get in line first very quickly because I'm sure Ruth Chris has multiple attorneys in-house for them, and they have their accountants, and they can kick off all the documents they need very quickly. And they also probably knew it was coming down the pipe, so they had everything lined up. So as soon as the ink dried on the paper, they were able to get in very quickly. And so because of that, the money went very fast because you had larger businesses jumping in that, the definition that is used for this for a small business was any business that didn't have more than 500 people in a location, in a single location. That to me is not a small. When I talk about small business, I talk about Omar's. I talk about I haven't had lunch yet, so I'm thinking about restaurants. Fat City. I think about those places. So that's what we're looking at. Don't the banks get a fee for the deals? So wouldn't that give them an incentive to process the route? It would. I absolutely agree that it would. The issue, though, once again, is they're going to get a percentage. So if you're allotted, $100 million, whether you give it out to 100 people or 1,000 people, you're still going to get the same percent. There's less work involved with doing a Ruth Chris type loan than it is for a smaller business. I also, and this is where all the bankers will start throwing things at me, I'm also the in-house attorney for a credit union based in Jackson, Mississippi. And we do smaller businesses. We loan to smaller businesses. And I can tell you the work involved to do a $20,000 business loan to a small mom and pop shop versus doing $1 million loan to a much bigger company, we spend probably 10 times the amount of time on those smaller loans than we do on those bigger loans, because most of it is the people who are running the business, as I've always said, the entrepreneurs are experts in something, and that's why they're running the business. The problem is they're usually lacking in something else, and a lot of times it's the legal accounting side, and it takes them a while to get all that gathered up. It takes them a while to find out about the information, gather it up, get it to you. And in this case, by then, it's too late. The money's gone. The money went very quickly. Correct. Dr. Fears, technical skills are lacking for most. Anything else?
Let me ask if there's anyone who's joined on the phone who doesn't have access to the chat box, if you have any questions for Dr. Tew. Okay, I guess not. Dr. Tew, thank you very much for sharing with us and giving us your expertise and your vision. I did not see a crystal ball on your desk, so we're going to take everything as
Nothing but sports
opinion.
memorabilia. That's all I've got behind me. I've got my Deuce McAllister autographed jersey, and I got a bunch of Mets autographed hats over here.
Okay, well, we'll forgive all that.
Hey.
Thank you so much, and everybody, we do appreciate it. The opportunities are tremendous. Next week we will do this again. Is there any interest at all in maybe doing an evening session to see if we can open it up to other people? Anybody? If so, if you think it might work, let me know, and we'll schedule one just to see how it works. We'll call it a happy hour. We will continue on, and let me see here. Our thought for the day. Oh, this is true. We will get through this, no matter how hard it gets. Just remember, we're stronger. We'll do this. Okay, everybody, we're going to ring another bell and call the meeting adjourned. Thank you very much for participating.
Thank you. Bye.